I'll get you next time!
Identifying.
The King of Cakes. Chopper for the win.
G'day guys, welcome back to Cakes by Chopper. Today we have Inspector Gadget. I loved this cartoon when I was a kid, although I was more of a fan of Dr. Claw and his cat because that cat was such a hole. Anyway, if you want to learn how to make this cake, then stick around. Go Gadget Cake! Alright, you're going to grab your template off the Cakes by Chopper Facebook page, and then we're going to cut out all 3 pieces, set them aside and your little detailings, and then we can get to work on cutting out all the shapes. It's going to be 3 high, and don't forget his little hair pieces at the side, which we're only going to use 1 of. Now when you're cutting out the side pieces for his hair, just try and angle it to the face. I've left them in like a perfect triangle. We're going to go through and cut the divots out off the template, which I've left in. It's just easy to do it this way rather than try and cut around it. Now with his nose, I'm going to angle the bottom off and go up to the point so that we have that ridge that we can now shape. And on the template, I've shown you where there should be a round ball and the rest should taper down. Now that we have all our shapes cut out, we're going to position them on the board, just the first base layer, just so we've got his ears right, and then we'll continue carving before we fill and give it a crumb coat. Just use your guide to make sure you get the correct placing of his hair and stack the rest on, and then we're going to give his face a little bit of shape. So we're going to literally take half off this side, go again half off this side, just on an angle. This part's just going to bring his nose forward, so we can put that on top. We've got a nice nose. At the front of his chin, we are going to angle in just ever so slightly. And we've got the ridge of his hat here. We're going to look at the template. It's got these little grid grader patterns. Now that means I want you to taper that in, but we're going to hook it in and then back up to the top. Okay, once you're happy with the hat shape and you've got his chin right and his nose is ready and the hair's on position properly, you want to go through and now fill that and cover it with a ganache, getting it all nice and smooth, ready for the fondant. I wouldn't put too much of a filling in because you don't want to raise the dimensions. You can see here that I'm not worrying too much about these ridges because I'm going to fill them with ganache, and when we put the icing over the top, it's going to allow us to push that icing in and get the detail we need. If we left it as just solid cake, it would push back and ruin the shape, whereas the ganache gives it a little bit so we get the shape we need and we don't have to be too finicky with it. Now that we've crumb coated the cake body, we're going to start with some black fondant and roll that out quite thin, place it over the hair at the sides, and then we'll put the details in, and then we'll move on with the rest of the fondant. We can go through using any sort of pointy object, a back of a paintbrush, and just put in those dints for his hair. If you're a cake decorator, you've probably got some lollipop sticks around. You can also use those just to push them in and give it that ripple. Before we start onto the flesh colored fondant, I'm going to go wash my hands so I don't have any black residue over that could possibly stain your next couple of layers of fondant. Okay, so taking some flesh colored fondant, I've gone for a real cartoony pink. What I'm going to do is roll this out, place it from about the bottom 3/4 all the way down and under his chin, and then quickly trim it off before it starts to stick to the black. And then we're going to go around the bottom and clean up the bottom part of the face here. For Inspector Gadget's ball chin, if you notice on the template he's got like a bit of a bumpy chin there. We're going to roll the ball really tight until you don't see any of the lines. I'm going to apply that on, then use my brush to melt that in. You see I've just secured that all around the edge with some edible glue, placing the ball on. Now I'm going to gently roll that down a little bit. So we're just creating a little ridge. Then we're going to take our brush and smooth that out until the seam becomes invisible. Now once you're happy with the seam disappearing, we're going to use our hand to just gently smooth that off. Be careful if it's had any edible glue on it because it will be sticky. Now I'm going to just go and define his nose a little more. And I'm only doing that on one side because you want it to taper in. So just smoothing this side, defining the left side. For his ears, what we're going to do is roll a ball of fondant, chop it in half, pinch it into a teardrop shape, push our thumb in and shape it, then use our shaping tool to cut in the little details, and then we'll apply them to both sides. They sort of just sit on the bottom part of his hair. Once you're happy with his ears, we can move on to the hat. So to make Inspector Gadget's hat, we need some greys, and I messed up a bunch of fondant. Then I quickly went to YouTube and looked up how to make grey fondant, and Talia's Cakes has a great tutorial here if you just want to click up in the card, and you can achieve these awesome greys and just make it to what you need. So what we're going to do now is roll it out, cover the top part of his hat, and then make an illusion to make a hat band. Trim a nice straight line. We can take the excess away, pushing that in all the way down around the bottom. Then you can trim it away. Just be careful you don't over trim it. Position your fingers at the top, give a little pinch. You're just redefining those indents you put in earlier where we carved out on the cake. For his brim, we're going to roll quite a fat snake, and you want to keep it the same width all the way across. Just roughly measure how much you'll need. That's about right. Now I'm going to use this to just gently angle that down. Try and keep it the same width all the way across. So you're sort of pinching one side of the triangle thinner and bringing that down. It's not going to sit too far off his face, but it's going to give the illusion of. Then we'll place this under, keeping the flat side out. Then chop it off a little bit more than you think and bring that down to the bottom. And you can see we've made sort of a hat brim that looks like it comes out heaps far, but it actually doesn't. Now for his hat band, we're going to take a little bit of white and the tiniest little bit of grey. Once you've got some light grey, you just want to make sure it complements the dark grey you've got. Roll a snake, and then we're going to flatten that, trim it so it looks a little bit even, and then place it as a thin band around the top. Okay, for the last thing to do, we're going to make his eyes, which we'll roll a white ball of fondant, cut it in half. They might be slightly bigger than the template shows because we've added fondant to the template and it makes it thicker. Taking a few little round dots of black, we're going to give him his eyeballs. Just very small. And I find just roll them in your finger, place them on, and tap them down. If you want to get a little creative, you can give him different looks. You could make him look shifty-eyed, side-eye. You could make him look up. Just move the eyes around, up to you. I'm going to make him look straight on because I think it's just more traditional. And then we'll go get a fine liner brush and we'll outline his nose, his mouth, his little chin piece, and the little wrinkles under his eyes, and we'll be finished. I cannot stop looking at this guy. I absolutely loved Inspector Gadget as a kid. This came out so good. I'm really happy with it. To me, it just reminds me of my toy I had as a kid. Thank you guys so much for clicking on Inspector Gadget. As I said, I love him. I'm so happy, and I'm thankful that you guys are watching the videos. Let me know in the comments below if there's something you'd like to see. I'm not promising I'll make it, but if I get inspired by it, then it'll be on the channel. And if you want to see some more cake, stick around for the end card, and also check out the YouTuber that I've chosen to feature this week on my video. Thank you so much again, and I'll catch you next time. Bye guys.